Hello everyone. This is Ahmed, co-founder of the Blockopedia. Today we have with us Branson Lee, co-founder and CEO of Inside Genesis. He started Singapore's first digital asset exchange. He has taught fintech at NUS and now he's building Inside Genesis, a company that's shaping the future of decentralized finance and technology. So let's welcome Branson. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ahmad. Thank you for having me.
So, Branson, before we dive into Inside Genesis, tell us about your early journey. How did all it begins?
Sure. Yeah, so well, my journey into Web3 or blockchain started in 2017. That was when I first took a course from MIT. And we got introduced to this concept called blockchain. And from there, I just probably went into this rabbit hole. Then I started my first company, first startup, dealing with provisioning different types of blockchains on top of the AWS systems. Of course, now we have Fireblocks and whatnot. Those days, there were no such thing. So our idea was very simple, just to make sure that companies that are out there to experiment with blockchain. First of all, which chain should they use? Right, it's difficult to find. Number two, what kind of apps should they build? And thirdly, if you know the type of chain, you know what kind of apps you want to build, how do you find the engineers, right? Because those days were quite difficult to find blockchain engineers. So our idea is to curate decentralized apps from different chains, and then allow the companies to actually just spin off whatever apps that they want to use, and then just modify the code from there. So we did an ICO in 2017, 2018. Raised a bunch of money, but of course the bear market came. We didn't know how to manage our treasury, and we suffered a significant shortened runway. And in 2018, I started the digital asset exchange, as you alluded to. We managed to get into the sandbox with the Central Bank of Singapore, and we are then granted a full license to operate a digital asset exchange in 2021. Yeah. And after that, I sold my stake in the exchange, and now I am teaching blockchain, as well as starting this company called Inside Genesis. So that's my
Yeah,
my journey. Yeah.
yeah, like 2017 was like a very golden period for the ICOs. Like there are so many IOs who were coming in the market. It was like a very golden stage for the ICOs. Lots of the people make a huge money and they raised a lot in 2017 to 2019, I feel. And
Mm.
yes, we have seen the bearish market, like somebody has raised some good amount, somebody has trashed it. Yeah, we have seen. So another thing, like you built Singapore first regulated digital asset exchange. So now, inside Genesis, what inspired that shift?
So, just to be very clear, the exchange itself, we deal with security tokens, right, or what we call real world assets nowadays. Of course, as we look into this idea of digital assets, I mean, digital asset, as the name suggests, it's about moving real assets into the digital realm, right? So, in other words, we are actually building the infrastructure for the future, right? And if we believe that the future is going to be digital, then how do we then 10x or even 100x our productivity, right? So, I think that's where AI comes in, right? So artificial intelligence agents or even agentic AI, they need to transact with each other, right? Seamlessly and without intervention. The question is, how do they do that in a manner that they can understand each other? And that, as we know, should be in the digital format. So it's a sort of a easy, seamless transition for me as well, because if you look at digital assets plus the AI part, I think it's just a progression from there. Yeah.
So, if we talk about Web3 and AI, when did you
Mhm.
first feel Web3 and AI is not a hype, it's a real thing?
Yeah, I think for most people, the aha moment, so to speak, is actually the ChatGPT, right? It's actually watershed for a lot of people. For the longest time, automation, we deal with automation through scripts and programming, right? It's always back end. And what we do is that we just look at the interface. But with the advent of NVIDIA H100 chips, training of large language models, and as well as the most importantly, the interface that users can now use as a prompt, right? That enables users to actually sort of, try and get their feet wet. And that's where people start to believe that, hey, this is something real. It's not just, hearsay or even, or just advertisement. Yeah. So I would say the ChatGPT moment is the most important moment in AI. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned like you are also teaching the students. So which is harder, teaching students about fintech or building products in the first changing Web3 world?
Yeah. So um, I think if you talk about teaching students about fintech, it's challenging, right? I think they are both challenging in their own rights. And the reason is because blockchain is not an easy topic to understand, or Web3 or even fintech, right? Because we're so used to doing things a certain way, analog, and now we're talking about technical concepts like, blockchain, Web3. So it's almost impossible for us to immediately take to this technology without an apprehension. That's like, introducing automobiles to a society that's used to horse riding, right? It's very
Hmm.
difficult for you to change because that's been the way that you do things, right? So and we know change management is always so difficult. Um, so that itself is difficult in terms of understanding fintech. But building for Web3 on the other hand is also difficult. And the reason why I say that is because Web3 services and applications, they actually believe they rely on the users. And as I've said earlier, if the users don't change their ways of doing things, then how are you going to get more users,
Hmm.
right? So how do you onboard the next, 100 million or 1 billion users, right? So these two so-called um, things or issues are actually intertwined, right? So building product market fit products is difficult because technology is very nascent, right? Very new. And then at the same time, you need users to get used to it. And users are not used to it because they're so used to doing things a certain way. So therefore, they feed into each other, right? So I think both are equally difficult, but I think where we need to start is actually getting people to use it, right? To try it, and then from there, companies can also start building things that are more productive, right? Things that are so-called helping individuals to increase the productivity. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Like education and having a knowledge of the product, having a knowledge of the technology is really very important. If we want some make some good products, like we obviously need some good users, and if they don't have any knowledge about it, don't have knowledge about the technology, they are not going to use it. So there is no sense of building that. So I feel like education is really very necessary for
Yes.
surviving in this Web3 space. So you mentioned you have started in 2017.
Mm.
My question is like you worked with exchanges, you worked with universities, you worked with startups. How do you spot opportunities so early?
I think I would say it's not so much of spotting opportunities early. I think through our daily lives, I think we interact with a lot of people through networking, going for events and so on and so forth. And when you do that, naturally, you will talk to people and understand what's going on. And some people will tell you, hey, I have some issues with this, I'm facing some problems doing this. And that's how you become inquisitive and curious, right? And then you ask and deep dive and even, uh, you know, ask the relevant questions, so to speak, right? And then from there, you sort of build on that premise that, hey, perhaps there is something that we can do here, right? Because I've spoken to 20 people, 19 of them told me the same issues. Maybe we can, optimize or build a product to solve this problem. So I think that's the way that I would approach it. And the other thing is that you also look at inefficiencies, right? Of course, problem is one thing. At the same time, what are the technologies out there that are sort of I would say hated by people, right? The funny thing is that most technologies are already around. right? But if you look at technologies that are not so-called achieving its full potential, that's where the so-called low-hanging fruits opportunities are. There's no harm trying to understand, or at least building on some of these technologies. In fact, by experimenting, I think you also get some ideas, right? So I think the idea is not to be the first to adopt anything. But at the end of the day, if you can speak to more people, understand how the user or consumer can benefit from such a technology, then you can iterate some of these products and services out there, and then maybe achieve a better product market fit.
Yeah, if we can achieve a very good deal, like if we really want to help the pupils. Yeah.
Agree. Yeah.
So let's dive more into the inside genesis and the future of decentralized intelligence. So I want to know, inside genesis says people can own their destiny with AI and blockchain. What does that mean in simple words?
So, so in simple words, what we're saying is that we are empowering our consumers or individuals with the means to control their own data, right? And if you can imagine, every day that we interact with different platforms or social media out there, we are putting our own data onto the internet, right? And I think a lot of us don't understand, or at least do not care enough to know that some of this data that we put on it on these platforms are being monetized or being sold, worse still, right? So we are leaving a lot of data online. The question is, how do we then benefit from that, right? Because these are our data, right? So we have also heard of some of these platforms being hacked, or have their security breaches and so on and so forth. So I think from that aspect, I think we can do a lot more for the users, right? So this is where we came up with this idea that, hey, what if we can let users control the data, right? First of all, control the data, and secondly, help them monetize it. Now, of course, we're not saying that this idea is brand new and nobody has thought of it before. But what we're doing here is slightly different. We don't collect your raw data. In other words, the biometric data that you have and so on and so forth, all this remains in control of the users, right? But what we do is that we put it through the AI model and we generate secondary data, what we call insights, right? But these insights are also unique to that particular person, right? It's just that it's not your biometric data. So therefore, you in this case, the users are more safeguarded in terms of security, and then they are able to give access to certain entities that want to use it, and then charge them for it, and then that is how they benefit. Yeah.
Yeah, like an decentralized data exchange. You are monetizing their own biometrics and the behavioral data. How do you build just trust around that?
Sure. So I think building trust is always about the two-way street, right? We are very upfront with our users, right? And like what I said earlier, we don't collect the raw data. So we are very upfront with the users, that we don't collect your raw data, right? Things like fingerprint, so on and so forth, we don't collect them. We only process and use the secondary data called insight. Okay, that's the first thing. And secondly, I think once the users uh, have a taste of some of these benefits that they have, in other words, they get a report, a health report, every time they do a scan on our website or use our services, that builds trust because we're giving you insight into yourself, right? Things that you have never understood. Right? For example, let's say if I'm a student, I want to go into university, I don't know which course to pick, right? By using our tool, we can directionally point you to what you're good at, right? That itself builds trust with the users because now they are able to cut short a lot of all this, unnecessary time experimenting with different things that they are not sure whether they're good at or they like, and then in the end up with a career that they may not, it may not be suitable to them, right? So in other words, we are saying that we give something that's beneficial to the users, and we also upfront with them to tell them that, hey, we are not taking any raw data from you. Yeah.
Perfect. You mentioned about another companies doing the same, and you're blending AI plus crypto plus community. So, what is the one thing do you avoid being just another dashboard?
Yeah, I think the combination of AI, crypto, and communities is obviously a big one, a big task. And of course, there are also companies out there doing the same, right? And how we do it is that we at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we give benefits to the users, like I said earlier, right? So it's about blending two or three different technologies together, like AI as well as blockchain, right? Of course, if you try to convince people to use Web3 wallets and things like that, it's really difficult enough. Now we're talking about AI as well, right? So what we want to do is to at least reward them. First of all, we have a token, right? Although it has not been released yet, we have a token to reward people, right? To tell them that, hey, if you use this, first of all, you get rewarded, right? Monetarily or financially. Number two, you also get a health report, something that is personal to you, and you can understand your own health, right? Without even stepping into a clinic, right? Of course, we're not saying that this supersedes the consultation with the doctor, but what we're saying is that this is something that you can start to understand yourself, right? Or even based on the insights, this make certain decisions better, right? So that's how we basically build trust and build the community. And at the end of the day, we are not into this pump and dump scheme, right? We're here to build a legitimate business, and our tool is already live, right? So we're not talking about something that is on paper or something that's in PowerPoint, right? We already have a working tool, so users can straight away use it, right? So I believe that stands us apart from the rest of the platforms.
Amazing, amazing. You took an example of old school scores, and you also have a Genesis scores.
Yeah. So the Genesis score is based. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're asking about Genesis score, right?
Yeah, just you. I was asking about Genesis score, how it helping the people to get credit without old school scores, and how does that work in the practice?
So if we take a step back, right? If you understand, the financial institutions traditionally, what they do is that they rely on credit bureau. In other words, they have a company or a private company, or it's the national registry of data. So what, in other words, they collect credit score based on your transactional habits with the financial institution, right? So if you have purchased certain things, how often you repay the loans and things like that. So all these things go into this database called Credit Bureau, or a company called Credit Bureau. And from this, the banks will make use of this to rely on and to make certain decisions whether to lend this particular person X amount of money at what kind of interest rate. Right, and this is a model that works generally in the developed countries, right, where the data is more organized, infrastructure is robust, right. But if you talk about developing countries, right, where infrastructure is not as robust as developed countries, and you don't have credit bureau, and worse still, you don't even have a repository of data. In fact, some of these people do not even have access to financial services. How are you going to collect data? Right? And then if you don't collect data, you have no data to rely on. How are you going to give access to financial services? So this is the problem that we see in developing countries. So what we do is that we turn this problem on its head. We look at what people have, right? Everyone has a mobile phone, right? In fact, almost some people even have two or three mobile phones, right? So, and with the mobile phone, you have camera and microphone, right? So what we do is that we enable this tool that uses your own device's mobile camera or microphone. From there, once it captures 45 seconds of your face or your voice, we can put it through the AI model and churn out this particular credit score. Of course, we work together with the financial institution to do back testing, right? So once this is done, you are assigned a credit score, right? Without any prior data of prior interactions with this financial institution, right? So with that credit score, the banks can then make a decision whether to extend loans to this particular person, right? It could be 10K, 20K at 5% or 10% interest rate. So this is a model that works because you don't need specialized equipment, right? First of all, from the user end, and secondly, for the banks or financial institutions, they get access to a new market, right? So it's a win-win for everybody.
Perfect. So, if we talk about the like the generations which we are building, so we are now like everyone say like we are into the era of Gen Z founders and meme-driven cultures. You see, so do you see that as noise as a real opportunity, or like it's just a hype?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of young Gen Z founders, and of course, meme coins have taken off. I believe this is a necessary evil. And the reason why I say that is because with any new technologies, people are trying to find ways and means to monetize it. That's number one. Secondly, they are trying to find product market fit. And if we understand, the human nature, it's always about the sins, right? Sins always take off first. So things like speculation, gambling, making money, all these things will appeal to their second nature, right? And therefore, it is not surprising that when you have a new technology like AI and blockchain, the first things that took off is basically your speculative coins, right? People want to speculate and they want to make money, right? And that's the stepping stone towards something more robust and productive. So then there'll be this period where you clear out all these excesses, right? So there'll be bear market, coins will drop 99%, and that's where the projects will then fail and whatnot. But this is a natural way of evolution of technology because we are always starting off with people who are a lot more risk takers, right? And therefore, once that risk taking phase tapers off, then we will begin to see more productive uh, projects, and people then will not then try to speculate in such a risky project.
Got it. So, like if we talk about if someone new joins Web3 today, which one tool or app should they start with?
Yeah, if there's if someone new joining Web3 today, I think the first thing that I would advise them to do is to actually start downloading a Web3 wallet, okay, like MetaMask or Phantom. And then, of course, try to understand the security behind it. What is a 12-word or 24-word mnemonic phrase, how to secure all these assets and so on and so forth. Understand the OPSEC behind it, operational security behind it. And then from there, dabble a little bit into this so-called USDT or USDC, where they can then experiment with certain apps. I think that's the best way to do it because you need to get your feet wet, right, in order to understand what's going on. But at the same time, you need to understand that there's a lot of scams and phishing attempts and so on. So security, number one, right? Number two, also do start off with tiny bits, right? Just experimenting, understanding without putting in 100K, 20, or all your life savings, right? So I think that's the best way to learn.
Absolutely agree with you. So, another question is like, what advice would you like to give to the young Web3 founders? Should they build first, build responsibly, or build weird?
I think build fast. I think that's the motto of all startups, right? Build fast, but at the same time, try to find product market fit. Of course, I would say majority of the startups will not be able to, find it in the first attempt, but that's fine. But at least you understand the consumer behavior, and at the same time, you iterate from there, right? But what I would caution the Web3 founders not to do is to collect a bunch of money and then disappear. I think that's very irresponsible. As long as you are building, you're trying your best to do something productive. I think that's the best way to do it. Yeah.
And we have seen lots of the Web3 founders were doing the same. Like they come up with
Yes.
a big money and like they have raised a very huge amount and then gone. So we have also
Yeah.
seen the same space in the last 5 years we are seeing out. So what advice, like, or maybe if you had to explain decentralized AI to a 13-year-old in one line, how would you do it?
Well, I would tell the 13-year-old, imagine there are 10 of us, right? Each of us have special talents, and we only have one talent, and all of us have different talents. Imagine we are trying to ask the robot to have the collective talents of 10 of us. That's the power of decentralized AI. In other words, we are putting the talents of 10 persons inside a particular robot or program to do or something productive, help us in our job. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. So, last question, like I usually ask to everyone. Uh, we were also into the era of Web 2 and we also have other stuffs as well. So, outside of crypto and the AI, what keeps you motivated in life?
Um, I think I'm fairly involved in the fitness industry. I like to go to the gym and make sure that I keep healthy, right? Because the market can be very brutal, right? And also very stressful. So that itself helps me. And at the same time, I also read quite a lot and try to understand the market and listen to podcasts and so on and so forth. So that's the so-called things that keep me motivated. And I'm happy following the news, what's happening in the industry and so on and so forth. And that's actually quite um, motivating to me. And finally, of course, the investments, right? How do we make sure that we safeguard our life savings and also save for retirement? Yeah.
Cool, cool. Like health is everything, and keep us updated. Having some news portals on a daily basis is really very necessary nowadays. So
Yep.
let's have some, like I will be having only three questions, and let's have some rapid fire. I would like to know your favorite underrated crypto or AI project right now.
Um, I think the underrated crypto AI project. Wow. I think there are quite a number out there. But I think one of the key things is actually decentralized ID, right? Something that we are trying to build here. I'm not also I'm not trying to toot our own horns here, but we have seen a lot of talks about having passporting of IDs and whatnot. But so far, none has actually pulled it off. So the question is, is there someone or some companies that can, allow users to actually use this particular insight or even ID that they can, port across different projects? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So another question, like one mistake you made early in the Web3.
Oof, I think it would be holding on too strongly to a certain belief, right? And by that I mean I started off as a Bitcoin maxi, and then I pushed away all sorts of thoughts and learnings about Ethereum and other projects because to me I think Bitcoin is the only legitimate project out there, which rightly so. I mean, it has survived for 14, 15 years, right? But I think not keeping an open mind is sometimes quite detrimental because financially you can make a lot more money. That's number one. And secondly, there could be other projects out there or even networking events that you could have gone to because of your your so-called beliefs. You decided that, hey, this is not for me, then you miss out on a lot of opportunities. So I think that itself allows me to be more open-minded when it comes to projects. So nowadays when I see projects, I don't write them off immediately. I'll try to understand them first and then dip my toes into it, just try to understand what they're trying to do here, right? Same thing goes for meme coins or even NFTs, right? It's easy to write off anything and anyone, but hold your horses and just try to learn. Yeah.
Perfect. So my last question is, and after this we'll wrap up this session. If not inside Genesis, what would be the building today?
I think I'll still be in the same industry, in
Hmm.
the crypto space. But what I would be more interested in would be, like I said earlier, operational security, OPSEC, right? Because I've been a victim of scams. I'm sure everyone has at some point. The question is, how do you help people to safeguard their digital
Hmm.
assets? And going forward, this is even more imperative as more and more people come on board. We have seen a lot of hacks and data breaches and loss of funds and so on and so forth. So how do we safeguard, help people safeguard this aspect? Yeah.
So before wrapping up, Benson, would you like to share some insights or maybe some future updates about Inside Genesis, which you would you like to share with our community?
So, so we are live now. Just go to our website, insightgenesis.ai. Try our tool. You can get a free health report. I think that would be very useful for anyone trying to understand their own self. And then from there, try to join our community. And very soon, we might be doing a TGE, and that's where you can get involved and get rewarded for your participation. Yeah.
Amazing. So, Branson, thanks a lot for sharing your journey and insights today. This was
Thank
truly valuable. And to everyone listening, if you want to explore more, check out InsideGenesis.ai and their work on Genesis Score and DDX as well. That's all for this episode. Until next time, so keep learning, keep exploring, and keep building.